All right, today I have strength workouts. We're gonna go with an upper body push, so chest exercise, and we're gonna superset that with a lower body exercise, so probably something that's a hinge pattern to get more of the glutes, so something like a deadlift. All right, first push, we have dumbbell bench press. Back, so you want to keep the shoulders rolled back and together as you do this. And then another important thing is as you are bringing the dumbbells down, you don't want to bring them straight down next to you. You actually want the dumbbells to go forward just a little bit as you're doing this to help you keep the chest engaged. More chest and less of your shoulders doing the work. So if you watch, as you're dropping down, he's gonna bring the dumbbells to right about mid-sternum, or mid to lower part of the sternum, your breastbone. And he's gonna push it up and finish here. He's gonna start here, drop down to about here, and then bring it up and finish here above his chest for the greatest chest squeeze. All right, so for bench press here, you wanna roll the shoulder blade, or sorry, you wanna squeeze the shoulder blades back and together, and then you're gonna lock them down and rotate them down just a little bit towards your hips. Then from here, your chest should already be contracted, and then you're gonna bring the dumbbells down. Again, you don't wanna bring them straight down like this next to the armpit. What you wanna do is as you're bringing them down, let them go forward a little bit, more in line with the bottom part of your sternum or your breastbone, chest is squeeze, and then push back up above your chest. So inhaling down, exhaling up, keeping the chest contracted the whole time as you go through it. And the important thing is keeping your chest contracted the entire time. You're gonna inhale down, exhale up, and repeat. Inhaling down, exhaling up, and repeat. All right, so for the remaining deadlift, shoulders are rolled back, squeeze together, lock them down. Then you're gonna grab the barbell, and then from here, feet are gonna be between hip width and shoulder width apart. Everyone's preference is different, depends on your body structure and everything else. So soft bend in the knees, push those hips straight back as you drop down. Stop right about mid shin level so the weights are not touching the ground. Squeeze your butt, pull it all the way up, and then make sure to squeeze and tuck at the top. Inhale down, exhale up, squeeze. So my feet were right at hip width apart. You know, if you are at about hip width apart, if you were to imagine yourself, you were to jump up and grab onto a pull-up bar and just let your feet dangle down, straight down, that's about hip width apart. That's where I like my foot placement, maybe an inch or two wider to get a greater glute squeeze. But otherwise, that's my preferred position. But some people like their feet wider as they do it. So as you'll see, his feet are actually wider than my feet are, my placement. And that, if he's getting a better glute squeeze, he's not feeling it in his lower back by going with the feet wider, totally fine and acceptable. All right, roll the shoulders back, pinch shoulder blades together, dial the shoulder blades down towards your hips, squeeze the chest, and then push straight up. Try to keep that chest engaged the whole time. Nice, slow and controlled down, chest squeezing on the way back up. Chest controlling down, chest controlling up. Held down, exhale up, and repeat. All right, so again, for the deadlift, soft bend in the knees, hinging the hips straight back, stopping right about mid-chin level, squeeze your butt, pull up, sorry, Romanian deadlift. Squeeze, really make sure that you're keeping your shoulders rolled back, squeeze together, and dialed downward. Go through it, and focusing on butt, staying engaged every rep. Again, for bench press, you're laying back. Ideally, when you're on your back, you're gonna be here. You want the shoulder blades to squeeze back in together. Take your shoulder blades, dial them downwards to lock them in place. Holding that position, that's whenever you wanna bring it down, chest doing the work, squeeze, push it back. Make sure you have that chest engaged as best you can every single rep. Right. Shoulders back together, down, lock it in place. Alright, so chest contracted, inhaling down, exhaling up, chest doing the work. So whether you're using a barbell, dumbbells, whatevs, you want to make sure that you're keeping your back engaged. So you want your back to be squeezed back in together and then locked down. You have the weight in your hand, soft bend in the knees, hinging, keeping the back squeezed. So what you don't want to do is this, and on the way down, start relaxing and folding forward as you do. Now that you're doing super heavy weight and that happens just a smidge, then okay, it can be forgivable if you're a professional powerlifter. Because if you look at those guys, almost none of them are completely straight as they do this. Like they have a slight curve in their spine, but what's important to note about that is their spine position never changes. When they load up super heavy, you know, they're 700 plus pounds or the world record 1100 pounds. When they're here, they have a slight round, but their spine position stays the same all the way up and back down. As long as the spine position stays the same, you're fine. So this, going from flat and then pulling into this, is what you want to avoid. So I'm gonna try going up in weight. Now, if I feel like my form is starting to suffer, I can't keep my back engaged, weight's probably too heavy for me today, just not feeling strong, whatever it is, I'm gonna set the weight back down, go with a lighter weight. That's a safe, responsible thing to do. No ego lifting. And keep going. Go soft bend, straight back. Squeeze the glutes, pull it up, tuck. Hinging, glutes, up, tuck. Back, as neutral as you can, keeping your back engaged as best you can. Right, go. Down, exhaling up. Ooh, that was a good one. That chest. Ooh. There we go. Push. One. Chest squeeze. Nice. Again, take note of his positioning, his foot positioning and placement when he's at the beginning of his lift. When he actually has the weight up, he's in position. His feet are far wider than what I prefer mine to be, but that's not wrong because that gives him the best glute squeeze. And if you have your glutes engaged, you are far less likely to be using your lower back. It can still happen, to be honest, that gives you the greatest chance of it not. Looking back, squeeze, keeping this locked into place. Shoulders back together, lock down. Keep that core braced on the way back to support your spine. This little extra movement I'm doing at the top. So I'm pausing here to complete the full rep, but then I'm doing a plus movement at the top where I'm pushing the shoulder blades forward, and that's to help remind the serratus anterior that it too needs to keep working, that it can't start slacking. And make sure the back is contracting to hold it in place. Try to keep your triceps and your biceps, shoulders slightly relaxed, because you don't want to be squeezing your triceps as hard as you can to hold the weight up. Then that means that your back is not having to work as hard to try to keep your shoulder or keep the barbell in place. Okay, so that was 4 sets. We did an upper body push exercise, bench press. Then we did a lower body exercise. 4 sets. Now we're moving on. We're gonna move to push-ups. Good old push-ups. Along with hip thrusters. For hip thrusters, these are gonna be specific for your glutes. If you're gonna do hip thrusters with the barbell, I recommend some type of pad to place on your hips that's in between the barbell and your hips. So this pad will be here. You can also, what I was doing before I bought this, is taking a regular gym mat and just folding it up, placing it here, then the weight went on top. So it is whatever you want to do. That is using here, they are foam pads for the wrist. Now, if you have wrist issues doing push-ups, so basically if your hands are in this position and it causes wrist pain, one way to help combat that is to either one, if you don't have those foam pads, you'll take a regular mat like this, fold it up once or twice, and you'll actually place your hands in front like so. So your hands should actually be, or your wrists will actually be elevated as you're doing the push-ups. So if you're having flat like this, place just the heel of your hand here on the very edge. It'll be slightly elevated, and that can take away that wrist pain. Or if you have or want to order these foam pads, it does the exact same thing. So dropping down, chest squeezing, push it up. So I'm actually gonna encourage for next set, don't drop down quite as far. So instead of bringing it here to where you're going here, if you go too far back with the elbows, like this in a push-up, then what that can actually do is disengage the chest and rely more on the front of your shoulder, or it'll rely more on the tendons to hold you in place
not the actual muscle, then you have to actually push through your tendon or your tendon holding you in place, or just the front of your shoulder to get back into a position to where your chest does re-engage, which is not always the greatest. That can cause shoulder issues, or that can cause anterior shoulder pain. All right, push-ups, here we go. Now, for the push-ups, I want the same or similar range of motion that we did for the bench press. So when you are dropping down, it is not a straight down movement like this. Your shoulder should not be in line with your hand at all. This is not correct. So that'll potentially cause more shoulder pain, or create shoulder pain if you don't already have it. What I want you to do is, instead of dropping straight down, you're gonna line up with your wrists under your shoulders like so. Pull your belly button in, keep that core slightly engaged. And then on the way down, you're actually gonna fall forward like this, and then push back up into position. So it's the same movement as the bench press. So with the bench press, we started up in this position, we dropped down, so the dumbbells and hands were in line with the bottom of our sternum, our breastbone, and we pushed back up above the shoulders. So we're doing this movement, so down and then back up, top. Same thing with the push-ups. Instead of straight down, you're gonna drop down, hands are gonna be in line with the sternum, squeeze the chest, and then push it back up. Inhaling down, exhaling up. And then stopping the arms right about, or stopping the elbows right about 90 degrees. The chest stays engaged. You're not disengaging the chest at the bottom. Now, hip thrusters are a glute intensive exercise. There should be 0 lower back involvement, 0 or no more than 5% hamstring involvement as you do this exercise. Now, I'm progressing this exercise by using a booty band. I'm gonna put it on about 1 inch above the kneecap. So literally like directly above, not on, but above the kneecap. And this is gonna give more resistance for my glutes, or the outer glutes. So I'm gonna take a barbell, roll it underneath, elbows on top, walk your feet underneath your knees as best you can. Once you get to a heavy enough weight, you can't do it quite as well, but walk your feet as close as you can. You're gonna drive your elbows into the bench, prop yourself up, and then I want your shoulder blades resting directly on top of the bench. Now from here, feet are gonna be slightly different for everyone. Start with your feet hip width apart. Feet are turned out just a smidge. I mean, like literally like 1/2 inch or 1 inch, rotated outward. And then from here, your glutes are squeezed and you're rotating your pelvis upwards toward the ceiling to get a better contraction. Now from here, you're gonna hinge the hips down. As the hips go down, take your torso with you, squeeze your glutes, and back up. What you don't wanna do is let your hips drop and keep your chest pointed up. This is absolutely incorrect, and it's gonna cause, or can cause, lower back issues, lower back pain. So as the hips go down, your torso goes down with it. That way you're not creating a curve in your spine. Squeeze your glutes as hard as you can at the bottom. Push the hips up. And then here, you want to try to get as close to parallel to the ground as you can with your hips. Squeeze your glutes and then rotate them up a little bit extra, about 1 inch higher at the top by squeezing your butt more. They're going to hinge the hips down, squeeze the glutes up, and repeat. And you're trying to keep the knees pointed out as best you can every single rep. Give your glutes the best squeeze possible. Now, to continue with a slight demonstration with it, as you're doing a hip thruster, one thing to consider is hinge. If you're having trouble getting your glutes engaged, hinge the hips down. Again, take your torso with you. Pause. Now at the bottom, if you're having trouble engaging your glutes, take your hips and rotate them up or scoop your hips up like so to start the movement. Then for a lot of people, that'll help them engage the glutes. Then you push it all the way up and then back down. Now what's also important is when you get to the top, your lower back should be nice and neutral. There should not be an arch like this. If you're arching, this is your lower back doing the work, not your glutes. My glutes aren't doing too much work. So squeeze the glutes, push it up, pause when you're about parallel to the ground. Having someone tell you when you're parallel to the ground or having a mirror helps as well. But you're gonna go here, hinge, glutes are squeezed, and then roll that pelvis upward, just an extra half an inch. So this is squeezing a little bit harder, not your lower back. Then repeat. Push-ups, hands are gonna be under the shoulders. Remember, as you're dropping down, you're falling forward. Squeeze the chest and push it back up. If you need to modify this, you can go knees on the ground. Keeping that spine neutral as you're still dropping forward, squeeze the chest and then pushing it back up. Keeping his knees pointed out. Drop down, squeeze the glutes. Glutes should be engaged first, then you bring it up. And make sure you pause for half a second at minimum at the top to make sure your glutes are actually engaged and it's not just a jumping or bouncing movement. All right, so for the hip thrusters, again, you're gonna line up with the feet under the knees to start. Glutes are squeezed to have the knees pointed outward just a smidge to engage your glutes a little bit more. And then from here, take the hips, you're going to hinge them down, squeeze your glutes, and then push it up. Another important thing is you keep the weight flat on, or you keep your feet flat on the ground. You don't want to go onto your tippy toes. So if you look, I'm going down into the tippy toes, you don't want that. That's more calf doing the work and less of your glutes. You want to really emphasize the weight on the back half of the foot. So hinging down, squeeze your butt, up and tuck, and then back down and repeat. Now if you want to advance this a little bit more, you can do knee abduction and adduction. So what you're gonna do is when you're holding at the top, glutes are engaged, knees come in, keep the glutes squeezed, knees go out, hinge down, back up. Glutes and go. Glutes and go. Big squeeze to the top, no bouncing. So for this set, I'm getting pretty tired. My chest is getting fatigued. And I'm probably gonna start feeling more of the shoulder taking over or more the triceps. So what I'm gonna do is knock out whatever I can with regular push-up form. After that, I'm gonna go into modified. I'm not gonna stop, I'm gonna keep going, but it'll be modified form. So hands underneath the shoulders. Knees off the ground. Remember, you're gonna, as you're dropping down, you're falling forward. Squeeze the chest, back up, and then big old squeezy squeeze at the top. And then try to keep that contraction the whole time, and that's it. Chest is done. So modified, still keeping the chest engaged. That way I still keep the form, I still am able to focus on the muscle that I wanna work. All right, good form, drop down. Stop about an inch sooner on the way down. And I bet it'll be tougher to do it because your chest is staying engaged properly for a longer duration. Yep. Last set here. So remember, hands under the shoulders. So you can either go regular or modified, knees on the ground. Do whichever one is going to, one, protect your lower back, two, protect your shoulder by making sure your chest is able to do all the work. All right, so not straight down. You're gonna fall forward a little bit on the way down. Squeeze the chest, back up. Inhale down, exhale up, and repeat. Now for some people, doing this forward movement can put more strain on the wrists. If you have wrist issues, or even if you don't, this can make it feel like it does. If you do, I highly encourage you grab this, either these foam pads or use the mat like I showed earlier to keep your the heel of the palm elevated as you do it. And that's all my good stuff. Also, if you don't have a barbell, you can use a dumbbell by taking the dumbbell and placing it here as you go through the movement. For hanging knee raises, hanging knee tucks, whatever you want to call them. What you're gonna do on this one is, you need to do this one, if you have the grip strength and the back strength to do this, you'll hold here and dangle as you do the movement. By the way, like I'm really tired and I would not be able to do this exercise effectively switching to this. So you can grab these. Now what you're gonna do is place your arms inside, bring this all the way to the armpit if this is the version you're gonna do, or you can do it hanging as well, and I'll show you that as well. But you're gonna drive the elbows down to prop you up in place. Then from here, you're gonna keep your feet off the ground. Now you're actually going to scoop the hips forward first to engage the core. After you get that scooping movement, then you're gonna brace the core and you're gonna pull those knees up, try to touch them to the elbows, and then right back down. Nice stretch. Scoop again, and then pull. All right, arms go inside. You're gonna hold here. Remember, drive the elbows down to lock you in place. And then from here, you're gonna pull the belly button in. You're gonna scoop the hips first so you get that core engagement. And then you're gonna pull up through that scoop. Elbows to knees. Nope, knees to elbows. You're gonna rest. Pull the belly button in. Scoop and squeeze. Scoop, squeeze. All right, so driving the elbows down. The lats are engaged by driving the elbows down. Squeeze here to help stabilize up here. Scooping the hips, squeezing, and then pulling the knees up. Scoop, then pull. Driving the elbows down, keep you propped up. You're gonna be here, so you should be dangling. Now from here, pull the belly button in, scoop the hips forward by default to go ahead and engage that core. Then while you're scooping, you're bracing, and then you're pulling the knees straight up. Try to get the knees to the elbows, and then nice and controlled on the way down. Keep the core tight, bring it down, slight relaxation, re-engage, scoop, squeeze, pull it up, and down. Scoop, squeeze. Also, notice I'm not swinging forward and back, because as I'm pulling up, I'm not letting my knees go forward and then up. That creates a swinging movement. What I'm doing is I'm here, straight down, or I'm hanging here, and I'm literally slow and controlled, bracing, and the knees are just coming straight up and then back down. That way I'm not swinging. Remember, driving the elbows down to lock the lats in place, brace, scoop, and then bring it straight up. Okay, so it would be squeeze, scoop, and then bring it up to the sky. Oh no, I'm pulling on it. Come on, 5 to finish it. There you go. Okay, one way to make it more challenging is slow it down on the way down, so he'll get one more. He's gonna bring these all the way up, touch the elbows, using the contraction of the core. Scoop, squeeze, now slow on the way down. Fight gravity, and stop. All right, here we go. Driving the elbows down, so you wanna lock the lats in place, like so. So your humerus, your upper arm is parallel to the ground. So pull the belly button in, scoop to engage, and then pull it straight up, and then back down. Scoop, squeeze, up, and repeat. I got 2 more. Slow and controlled. One more. All right, now if you want to try these, but you don't have these, the workaround for that is you'll go into a hanging position on something like a pull-up bar. All right, so go here, hanging position. Now, the thing that you want to be very wary of is you don't hang here. Your ligaments and your tendons should not be what's holding you up. You want to actively keep the back contracted as you are hanging here. So it's here, squeeze your shoulder blades back, lock them together, hold that. Now you go into the scoop and then squeeze all the way up. Your back should not be relaxed, so you don't want to dangle here. You know if you're dangling or not, because if your shoulder is up near or slightly above your ear, then that means you're not really using your back to hold you up. You're just hanging. So shoulder blades back and together, roll the shoulder blades down, lock them down in place, then go through the movement. All right guys, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. And then I will see y'all next week.